Heavy snow falls densely against the penthouse window on the 92nd floor, each flake silently melting into the LED lights of Times Square. In the 400-square-meter living room, there's only the dim glow of a single floor lamp casting a jaundiced yellow light, and the ticking of the Patek Philippe clock on the wall, each second a reminder. Nicholas Calder, Nick, stands motionless before the glass. His left hand clenched around a glass of 25-year-old Macallan whiskey, his right gripping the phone so tightly that his knuckles turn white. The ice in the glass has melted into tears, diluting it like the promises he made 7 years ago, the scent of bergamot and cedarwood. Evie's perfume still lingers in the lining of his black cashmere coat from that afternoon, despite his attempts to mask it with fresh cologne on his wrists. The phone screen lights up for the third time that night. A message from his lawyer. Ms. Harper refuses the meeting for the third time. She says, "I'm not selling my son. Suggest you consider dropping the joint custody request." Nick closes his eyes. Before him, the city flickers on like a sleepless beast, but in his mind, there's only one image: Evie in a white dress, 5 months pregnant, standing in the apartment he left behind on the Upper East Side. The 12-carat diamond ring lies forgotten under the table, glittering like a frozen teardrop. Nick whispers to himself. 7 years ago, he left her with that ring. Now he's ready to trade his entire empire for a single embrace. He opens his eyes and takes a deep breath. His breath forms a white mist, dissolving instantly against the cold glass. At the same hour in Chicago, a second-floor apartment in Lakeview. The scent of gingerbread cookies baking wafts from the oven, mingling with the soft strains of the Christmas song on the radio. The warm orange glow from an old desk lamp illuminates the oak kitchen table, where Evelyn Harper sits cross-legged on a chair, colored pencils gliding lightly over drawing paper. The new park design, a floating garden amid Lake Michigan maples, blazing red in autumn. Beside her, Leo, 7 years old, has fallen asleep on her lap, his tiny hand still clutching a ragged-eared teddy bear. His dark brown hair is tousled, his lips murmuring in his sleep. "Mom. Kite." Evie's laptop sits open nearby. An email from the notary office flashes in red. Joint custody request filer, Mr. Nicholas Calder. Evie's heart feels pierced by an old shard of glass. She shuts the laptop, the dark screen reflecting her face, her green eyes still bright, but faint lines etched at the corners from sleepless nights. On the wall, a photo of 3-year-old Leo, the boy grinning ear to ear, Evie hugging him from behind her mouth, crooked with exhaustion, but her eyes alight with fierce determination. Evie thinks to herself, "He may buy the whole city, but he can't buy the nights. I rocked our son to sleep with my tears." She leans down and kisses Leo's forehead lightly. The warmth from the boy seeps into her palm, enough for Evie to know she chose right in never mentioning his father. The stale smell of old beer mingles with pine wood in the abandoned Brooklyn brewery. Purple neon light spills across the floating park blueprints. A low, warm saxophone drifts in the air. Evie stands on the podium, olive green silk dress, clinging to her frame, hair tied to one side, a few damp curls stuck to the nape of her neck. "Trees are the only friends who never learn how to leave," she says. Her green eyes flaring every time she mentions roots gripping concrete. Nick leans against a steel pillar at the back row, smoke-gray suit tie loosened. He came to sign a sponsorship check, but from the first minute he hasn't taken his eyes off Evie, how she presses her lips when she concentrates, how she pushes her glasses up when someone asks a stupid question. That night, he invites her to the brewery rooftop. The night wind whips her hair. "Coffee or champagne?" he asks. Evie smiles. "Coffee." I still have to go home and keep drawing. They talk until dawn then, until the next morning. From there, everything spins like a cyclone. Weekend yacht in the Hamptons. Evie lies on the bow, white dress billowing, salt wind tossing her hair. Nick sits beside her, champagne flute in hand. I don't like diamonds, she says, tracing circles on his chest with her fingertip. Just stay past 3 a.m. Nick laughs, pulls her into his arms. 2 months later, Monaco. Balcony of the Hotel Metropole overlooking Port Hercules. Evie pushes away the Cartier ring box on the pillow. I don't need sparkle to remember you. Nick kisses her wrist. Then what do you need? You, she says, eyes shining. Just you. Midsummer Dubai. 3 a.m. Marble bathroom in the Burj Al Arab penthouse. Evie retches over the sink, trembling hands cradling her belly. Nick bursts in, drops to his knees on the cold floor, wraps his arms around her from behind. I'm pregnant. Nick freezes for 1 second, then holds her tighter. We'll be okay. Late summer, Upper East Side, the night before the engagement party. Candles flicker. Evie, in a white dress, belly round and heavy, places her hand on Nick's chest. I'm afraid you'll disappear. Nick looks out the window, sees a future caged diapers crying duty. 3 a.m. He closes the suitcase. On the dining table, the 12-carat ring beside a scrap of paper. I'm not brave enough. The private jet lifts off for Switzerland. The engines drown out the sound of a heartbreaking. 3 weeks later, Mount Sinai Hospital, Chicago. Evie gives birth to Leo alone. His first cry rings out. She pulls him to her chest. Tears falling onto the baby's cheek. Snow falls in lazy flakes over Halsted Street, blanketing the eaves of St. Ignatius Elementary. The dismissal bell rings. Children spill out like sparrows, laughter sharp against the cold wind. Evie stands beneath the old oak gray wool coat, chestnut scarf, fingers tight around Leo's backpack strap. The boy wears a red knit cap, cheeks flushed, emerald eyes sparkling as he describes the superhero flying over Lake Michigan, picture he drew in class. Nick stands 10 paces away, leaning against the red brick wall, black cashmere coat, breath clouding white. He flew in from New York at 5 a.m. No bodyguard, no driver, just a small suitcase, and a fear swelling in his chest. Leo spots him first. Mom, that man keeps staring at me. Evie turns. Time stops. 7 years haven't faded Nick's gray-blue eyes or the small scar at his temple from an Aspen ski crash. Evie's throat locks. It feels like swallowing ice. She grips Leo's hand harder. Let's go home, sweetheart. Nick steps forward. Leather soles crunch the snow. Evie. His voice is hoarse as if he smoked a pack on the flight. Evie halts but doesn't fully turn. You're 557 days late. Nick lowers his head. I counted every one. Leo looks up curious. Mom, who's the man? Evie presses her lips. A stranger. Nick drops to one knee in the snow, eye level with Leo. I'm an old friend of your mom's. He reaches out. Leo shrinks back, pressing against Evie's leg. Nick meets Evie's gaze, eyes red. I want to meet my son. The words land like a small bomb in the snow. Leo frowns. Who's your son? Evie draws a sharp breath. The cold slices her lungs. Home, Leo. I'll explain. That night, the small Lakeview apartment. Gingerbread scent lingers, but the air is thick. Leo sits cross-legged on the rug, clutching his teddy eyes wide on his mother. That man is your dad, Evie says, voice trembling yet steady. He went very far away. Now he wants to come back. Leo is quiet, then asks, "Is Dad like a superhero?" Evie's smile twists. Even superheroes get scared. Nick stands outside the door clutching a bouquet of white lilies bought at the airport. He hears everything. 3 days later, a DNA lab on Michigan Avenue. Evie plucks a strand of Leo's hair while he sleeps, seals it in a zip bag, tears wetting the pillow. She mails the sample without telling Nick. Nick receives the results in the Four Seasons slumped in a leather armchair, hands shaking so hard the coffee cup slips. White paper, black letters, 99.99%. Father. He calls Evie at once. "I know now," he says. "I want to see him again." Evie is silent for a long time. Not here. Not like this. Nick doesn't turn on the main lights, just the warm amber desk lamp. The room is vast, but he's curled small in the leather armchair laptop balanced on his knees. The screen shows 217 photos of Evie on Instagram. She blocked him long ago, but he still finds them through the company account. First photo, Evie, cradling newborn Leo, eyes ringed purple, mouth twisted in a tired smile. Last photo, Leo at 6, red knit cap, Evie behind him, wind whipping her hair. Nick scrolls, finger trembling. Each image a blade. He calls his mother, the only person who knows he once walked away from his child. "Mom," his voice cracks. "I missed the first birthday, the first steps, the first dad." Mrs. Calder is quiet, then soft. "What are you going to do now?" Nick stares out the window at the thick snow. "Stay. Even if it costs me everything." At the same moment, Evie opens the old wooden box under the bed. Inside, a blurry ultrasound print, a maternity shirt stiff with dried blood, the scrap of paper, "I'm not brave enough." She lifts the note, fingers shaking. Then she stands, walks to the kitchen, lights it in the sink. Ash rises like black butterflies. Evie watches, eyes burning dry. Leo pushes the door open, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Mom, what are you burning?" "An old secret," Evie says, pulling him close. "Now I only need you." One day at Lincoln Park. Nick sits on a wooden bench, 2 hot cocos in hand. Evie arrives late, gray coat hair in a high ponytail. Leo races ahead, leaping into a pile of dry leaves. Nick offers a cocoa. Evie doesn't take it. 10 days, she says. "You're still the man who left." Nick bows his head. "I know. I'm not asking forgiveness. I'm only asking to stay." Evie watches Leo laughing in the leaves. "Your son is playing. Do you see, that's 557 days you weren't here." Nick stands, steps closer. "I see. And I won't miss day 558. The 10th night, Lakeview apartment. Nick stands at the door, white lilies in hand coat wet with snow. He knocks 3 times. Evie opens eyes, ice. "What do you want?" Nick drops to one knee in the hallway, knee against cold tile. "Give me 90 days, he says, voice raw. "No money, no lawyers. Just me, Leo, and you. If I quit, I disappear forever." Evie looks down. His tears hit the tile. Evie closes the door behind Nick. The latch clicks like a verdict. Nick remains kneeling now on the living room rug, knees against the worn wooden floor, the white lilies scattered beside him. Leo pushes open the bedroom door, rubbing his eyes. "Mom, who's crying?" The boy freezes when he sees Nick. Evie draws a deep breath. The cloying scent of gingerbread sticks in her throat. She kneels beside her son, smoothing his hair. "This is your dad," she whispers. "He's here too." Stay. Leo looks at Nick, then at his mother, then back at Nick. He steps forward, tiny feet brushing the wilted flowers. Why are you kneeling, Dad? Nick lifts his head, tears streaking his cheeks. Because I was wrong. I left when you were still in your mom's belly. Now I'm begging to stay, even if only to watch you smile. Leo is quiet for a moment, then sits on the rug facing Nick. He reaches out. A small hand wipes a tear from his father's cheek. Don't cry, Dad. I have a teddy bear. Want to hug it? Nick laughs through his tears, pulls Leo into his arms. Leo stiffens for a second, then wraps his little arms around him. Evie stands, turns away, fingers clenched on the kitchen doorframe. She doesn't cry, not yet. The days that follow pass in clumsy, tender moments. One early morning, Nick wears the gray sweater Evie handed him the night before, shaves the stubble in the hotel bathroom, staring at the mirror, no longer the 92nd floor CEO, just a man about to walk his son to school for the first time. At the gates of St. Ignatius, Leo leaps onto his back. Are you taking me to school? Dad? Nick smiles, the first in 7 years. I'm taking you. Leo hugs his neck and whispers, Dad. Evie stands a few steps away, eyes blurring. One evening, Nick fumbles with Leo's diaper in the cramped bathroom, baby powder spilling everywhere. Leo giggles. You're terrible at this, Dad. Evie lingers outside the door, listening to her son's laughter, the corners of her mouth lifting the first smile from her in 7 years. Another morning, Nick burns the oatmeal. Evie keeps the warped wooden spoon. Your first attempt, she murmurs. Leo draws a picture, Dad, Mom, me, and Teddy. Nick tapes it to the fridge, hand trembling. Christmas arrives in a blizzard. Nick sneaks in a small fir tree, decorates it himself with colored paper and gingerbread cookies. He gives Leo a sled, Evie a silver ring he carves. Stay into with a Swiss Army knife, blood dripping from his thumb, but he doesn't stop. They drive to Montana, the parcel he bought 6 years ago, for a resort now just a small log cabin in a white field. Leo races through the snow. Evie stands in the wind, skin stinging, but heart warm. She kisses Nick's forehead, while he dozes on the sofa, pine and gingerbread scents braided together. Later nights, Evie finds Nick's journal under the pillow, shaky lines. Leo laughs when I make silly faces. Evie smiles when I burn the oatmeal. I want to hear it forever. She cries then for the first time, slides in beside him, head on his shoulder, wordless. A rare sunny afternoon in Lincoln Park. Leo flies a kite. Nick runs after it, trips, face in the mud. The boy howls with laughter. Evie snaps a photo, the first of all 3 saved in her phone, never posted. The decade's worst blizzard hits. Power out, apartment black. Nick lights candles, cooks oatmeal on the old gas stove. Leo sleeps between them on the sofa, Teddy wedged against his chest. In the dark, Nick whispers, 90 days are almost up. Do I get to stay? Evie meets his eyes, candlelight shimmering. You stayed the first day. She kisses him, first kiss in 7 years, light as falling snow, enough to melt the long winter. Monday's page 6, scarlet headline, Nicholas Calder ditches love child for New York. Old photo, Nick with last year's supermodel at a gala. Caption, sources say CEO Calder was only toying with Ms. Harper and Son before returning to high society. Evie reads it in the kitchen, hand shaking so hard the wooden spoon clatters. Leo still asleep, unaware. She locks the bedroom door, calls Nick. Choosing the old world again, Nick's in an online board meeting at the Four Seasons. He mutes instantly. No, I'll handle it. That afternoon, he flies commercial to New York, no private jet. JFK chaos reporters swarm. Nick stands in the crush live streams on the company Instagram. I was a coward who abandoned the woman I love. 7 years ago, I ran from duty. Now I choose to stay no matter the cost. He steps down as CEO, temporarily hands power to the vice chair. Phone buzzes, mother lawyers, shareholders. He powers it off. Late night, Nick takes the overnight bus back to Chicago, coat torn from the crowd, clutching roadside wildflowers. The apartment door opens. Evie stands there, eyes red. Nick kneels in the hallway again. I chose, he says. Only you and Leo. April. Snowmelt runs in bright rivulets across the Montana field. Purple wildflowers bloom. Wind carries new grass and pine. Leo races up the hill, paper kite soaring against cloudless blue. Dad, Mom. Higher than the penthouse, Nick wraps Evie from behind, chin on her shoulder. She slips the silver stay ring back on no 12 carats, just thin metal, and a promise carved in blood. Leo shouts higher than the sky, Nick murmurs into Evie's ear, voice rough with wind, higher than the 92nd floor I stood on alone. Now I have the whole sky. Evie turns, kisses him in the flower field, the last kiss of winter, the first of spring.